Connor's Degrassi Unpopular Opinions. Hey there, it's Jeff Cutter, and welcome you to another Degrassi Unpopular Opinion special take. And today I look at a Degrassi Reddit post that I didn't do, but someone else did. And this was a while ago, 26 days ago. And this is taped on April 18th, 2022 for context. Claire's B10 said this: I'm rewatching and I'm on season 5. I am infuriated by Peter's sexual harassment of Manny and Darcy. But what's crazier is that Alice mom gives him his detention for it. Not to mention that there should be legal consequences. The principal just gives him detention. What happened to the no tolerance policy that resulted in Spinner and Jay getting expelled? Hell, as a woman, I guess basically saying that why would she just allow him to get a slap on the wrist? It's driving me crazy. Alright, so I'll give you a bit of context. Now, talking about the zero tolerance policy, that was in place in season 4. It wasn't really in place for the first few seasons, but when Spitter told on himself about his role in getting Rick hurt with the painted feathers and naming Jay as a co-conspirator, Hatzaleko said that we have a zero tolerance policy. I'm sorry, but I have to expel you at all costs. That you and Jay. And so Spinner and Jay get expelled and not allowed to come back. Normally, though, you basically lose your school year and then you're allowed to try to come back the next year if people see fit. And so Hatzaleko saw fit. But Hatzaleko's put pressure on Spinner saying that, if you mess up, you're gone. And Spinner says, I will redeem myself. Even though that nobody believes he redeems himself, he gets into the friendship club, he gets with Darcy, he basically tries to get better, he dumps Jay off as a friend, basically saying that Jay is the cause of my problems, and all that, and then, he gets Jimmy to talk to him by the end of the year, which is good. But of course, Jay said that the school needed a scapegoat. In a sense, it kind of needed one, because, Rick was dead, Raj was reassigned. Who else could you make a scapegoat? But no, Spinner went on his own accord. I think Hatzaleko knew because of all the spreading of the rumors throughout the school. And I think she was going to take Spinner to task. But Spinner did the right thing by telling on himself. So Spinner and all that aside, that was huge. The zero tolerance policy, and then all of a sudden in season 5, when Peter decides to spread Manny's topless video over the school because she broke his camera and he wanted $3,000 for a new one, which is like $3,000. That's kind of high, don't you think? Because Peter wanted Manny to date him. Manny did, and then Manny got drunk and all that, and Peter took advantage of Manny, even though that Emma wanted Peter and all that. And then all of a sudden, it's all over the school, and then we find out near the end of the episode in which Manny gets in trouble, loses her family and all that. Hatzaleko talks to Peter like she was his mother. And Emma and Manny both, did you know that Peter was Hatzaleko's son? No, I don't know. But who was the dad? Satan. But, they both didn't know that Hatzaleko was Peter's mom. And I'm thinking to myself, well, Peter's dead meat. I think Hatzaleko decides to destroy him, but she puts many detentions on him. And, Peter gets away with it scot-free. He's with Emma and all that. Nothing bad happens to that extent until season 6 when, Peter gets involved in that street race with Sean trying to get Emma's heart. Sean gets in trouble and gets thrown in jail. Peter just gets community service and all that bullshit. And Emma stays with him, believing Peter more than Sean. But it's up to Jay and Manny to set Emma straight, and Emma realizes things and basically destroys Peter. Then you got the fact that, Peter should have been in deep trouble for the fact that he planted drugs in Sean's locker. Because all Peter had to do, Peter was worried that Emma was going to choose Sean over him. After all, we all know the Emma-Sean dynamic. So, anyway, yeah. And then Peter goes after Darcy because he thinks that Darcy can fix him because Peter's lost Manny and Emma unfairly, as he said. He cries crocodile tears at Darcy. And then, he he puts Darcy's pictures up, and then this creep named Adams buys them and then, wants to go to Degrassi to meet Darcy. And thankfully, Adams gets stopped. But Peter, should have been blamed for giving Adams the stuff in the first place. So Adams is like, kind of creepy and all that. So the fact of the matter is that, things can get very creepy sometimes. So anyway, yeah, and then Peter ends up getting Darcy back, even though that the whole Adams situation, and then Peter helps Darcy deal with her stuff in season 7, which makes him a hero until Darcy goes to Kenya, and then Peter goes with Mia and her modeling clique before she goes to Paris and leaves Peter high and dry with a drug habit. So the fact of the matter is that what happened to the zero tolerance policy? Why wasn't it in place? Well, I could basically tell you that, the zero tolerance policy was the school board's policy in season 4 to punish Degrassi for what they did about the Rick situation. Yes, Rick brought a gun to the school. Yes, he shot somebody and nearly shot someone else. Yes, he died because of a shot. And yes, Sean's a hero. But the fact is, the school heard about all the problems Rick had to deal with and how the students took advantage of him and all that, even though that Rick was the bad guy the whole freaking time. So they basically put the zero tolerance policy on Degrassi as a punishment because they were trying to think, how do you punish Degrassi for all their stuff with this Rick situation? But I feel like the school board was under pressure because, they were attacked by Rick's parents who wanted compensation. But in the sense, Rick's parents probably would not have gotten anything. They probably would have got something, but not as much because, their son's a school shooter and that wipes everything out. Even though that, Rick's family would have said, well, he was bullied and all that. Yeah, but your son brought a gun to the school for redemption, for revenge. You can't do that. So anyway, I'm going to read you the comments. Ordinary Superstar said, my theory would be that since Peter was her son, she went easy on him. The news didn't reach the school board because none of the parents found out about it, and it's never brought to their attention because Peter only got detention from it. Another reason for this is that women are constantly blamed for stuff like this. Even the school board did find out. They probably heard about Manny's reputation, so they blamed her instead of Peter. And Peter's punishment was sufficient. Why Peter didn't go to jail is beyond me, though. Like, the way I read this is that, none of the parents found out about it. I'm sure some parents probably found out about Manny's topless video and were like, all that. But they could also blame Manny for putting up the topless video in the first place. So, things are a whole lot different nowadays than they were about, 17 years ago when this was in, 2005? So, yeah, so basically the school board were a bunch of old fuddy-duddies who I think in their mind should have just released Raj from his teaching license, saying Raj had nothing to do with school board, but they reassigned him and probably made him work his way up again. I mean, they could have just fired Raj. But to me, and another unpopular opinion I basically said that the school board were covering their own butts because, they probably had to do something to appease the Murrays, and they threw Raj under the bus, but they basically said, don't worry, we're just reassigning you. You work your way up the ladder again. But then again, if they fire Raj, he probably would have clapped back at them and got them into deeper trouble. Who knows? Yeah. People said she should have been fired and all that. Hatchlock should have been fired because of her mistake and all that. And Tom Darko said this and said, as other people have said, this was the 2000s, and also the fact that he's her son played into it. She has a bad relationship with Peter's father, who she mentions cheated on her, and also developed that she's dealt with sexual harassment in her life, and not being taken seriously because of her looks and body. She even talks about that in season 2. I did not know that. And a little sympathetic to Manny, but the writers did a 180 with her character when she became the principal. Yep, that's actually true. All that. Someone said, wouldn't it be a conflict of interest since Peter responds to the principal? It just feels in order to have a fair and good punishment, it would have to be presented and talked about with more than one authoritative person. This is fishy and all that. Yeah, and then they talk about how much, Hatzalakos was as principal, good or bad. So yeah, Tom Darko has it right, saying that the writers did her a 180 for their character when she becomes principal. It's akin to what they did to Radich and Simpson. Shep and Pill came in from other schools and all that, so we didn't get a character development with them, in a sense. But yeah, they did the principals dirty, in a sense. I mean, the zero tolerance policy should have been all throughout the years. But then again, it's like, how many students would have survived the zero tolerance policy? There would probably have been a lot of expulsions and all that throughout the first 5-6 seasons. And beyond that was a zero tolerance policy. I mean, how many people were expelled for their actions? Connor kind of was expelled for what he did with the underwear and put it into a different school and all that. But Snake, I think, just reassigned him for the time being. Snake had to deal with Connor's problems, underwear stealing, even though that Connor was living with him, was his godson. So he did it right. But the fact of the matter is that Hatzalakos was dealing with this situation. Peter was not introduced until season 5, and we didn't know about him being Hatzalakos' son until the second episode. I think, in a sense, Hatzalakos, and I did an unpopular opinion about Hatzalakos with Peter, her issues with that. But the fact of the matter is that, how I say it, is that Hatzalakos wanted to have favor with Peter. I mean, she's trying to make Peter realize that she's the better parent than her stupid husband who cheated on her and all that. But in the end, she wanted Peter to move to Regina with her at the end of season 7. But Peter refused, and he got emancipated, but his dad gave him an apartment because he didn't want Peter living with him. So yeah, Peter took advantage of his mom's trust, trying to get close to him and all that. But yeah, the zero tolerance policy just doesn't make sense, because there would have been tons of students who would have gotten in deep trouble for what they did and got expulsions and all that. I wouldn't be surprised if Snake had basically expelled Maya in season 13 because of her actions with that song and all that. Or even Cam in season 12 for attacking Sig. The school board also takes fault at it because their punishments are not common and all that. And then when they did the Black Lives Matter type of the Frankie racism storyline in Next Class season 2 or season 16, to me, basically that Snake was exposed. Paige and Marco said something about the fact that the school board treats minority students worse than white students. And I would be surprised basically the school board wasn't put on trial for their stuff and basically had to go with the times and all that. But yeah, they did Hatzalakos dirty. She was a decent teacher, and she had some decent storylines before she got principal. But Hatzalakos, someone even said Hatzalakos loves mentioning the school shooting and all that. Well, especially with the Jay and Silent Bob movie. But she likes to talk about it. I think in a sense because, that got her to be principal. She actually got the job after Raj screwed everything up. And she was thankful for all those involved to expose Raj and make her principal. Who knows? But the point I'm trying to make, guys, is there should have been a zero tolerance. The zero tolerance policy actually would not have been a good thing either, because many characters would have had to lose screen time and all that, and then we wouldn't get storylines like that. Spinner got rightfully expelled. The paint and feather thing, there's no excuse for that. Him and Jay basically bullied Rick into submission, and all that. But I don't like Hatzalakos blaming Spinner for Rick's death. Yes, Jimmy in the wheelchair. Yes, you should blame him for that. But why would she blame Spinner about Rick's death and all that? I feel like, she had to say that because the school board probably said something to her to the fact that, this is a tragedy and Degrassi will never be the same again. I think they're just trying to play a ploy on Miss H and basically saying that, the school's reputation is in your hands. You got to do something about it. She may have buckled under school board pressure, like Snake did. I still think Snake buckled under Audra's pressures one too many times, and even buckled under Hollingsworth, which was another CDUO I did. So yeah, that's the way it goes sometimes. Anyway, I'm